Good evening, everyone. Welcome to the board meeting tonight. We're about to get this meeting started, but before we do, I'm going to stand for a moment of silence, follow that by the pledge of allegiance to our country's flag. Anyone who feels like they would like to join me, please feel free to do so. Please join me in the pledge. Pledge
Allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
We're calling the meeting to order. First item on the agenda is roll call. Mr. Johnson, do we have the roll?
Yes, sir.
All righty, good deal. Next item on the agenda is approval of regular agenda as presented. Motion approved by Mr. Lancaster, second by Ms. Andrews.
Mr. Chairman,
Ms. Wise.
with the chairman's permission, let me put my glasses on, please. I would like to request that an item be added to tonight's agenda, asking staff to prepare a resolution in opposition to the state's proposed voucher system. Said resolution to be presented for approval at a special call meeting prior to this board's April 2 study session.
Motion's been made to. Second by everybody in the room, but I gotta have one. Who was first? Mr. Graham. Any discussion? Seeing none, all in favor say aye.
Aye.
All opposed?
No.
Got one no. We will put that, where do we need to put that, Mr. Johnson? Help me out there.
The motion was to have staff prepare it, and then you vote on it in the front of the study session, so.
Do what now?
No, never mind, I'm sorry. I would put it under, the last item on new business, item 6 or 5.
Last item under new business.
Yeah,
Okay.
item 5 is new business.
So, okay, that'll be item number 5 under new business. Let me make my note here. Resolution. All right. Back to the main motion, adoption of the regular agenda. We got a motion and a second. Any discussion? Seeing none, all in favor say aye.
Aye.
All opposed?
No.
Got one no. Next item on the agenda is adoption of consent agenda. Is there a motion? Motion approved by Mr. Wise, second by Mr. Daniels. Any discussion? Seeing none, all in favor say aye.
Aye.
All opposed? Seeing none, motion carries. Next item on the agenda is consideration of minutes, discussion and interaction regarding the minutes of the February 20th, 2024 regular meeting. Is there a motion? Motion to approve by Ms. Hayes, second by Mr. Lancaster. Any discussion? Seeing none, all in favor say aye.
Aye.
All opposed? Seeing none, motion carries. Next item, discussion and interaction regarding the minutes of the March 12th, 2024 special call meeting. Motion approved by Mr. Wise, second by Mr. Lancaster. Any discussion? Seeing none, all in favor say aye.
Aye.
All opposed? Seeing none, motion carries. Next item on the agenda is recognition and hearing of delegations, recognition of Liberty Creek Middle School cheerleading team. Mr. Lancaster.
I hope that's the ones that are sitting down. Y'all go ahead and stand up and down here. You know, when I came up with, I saw that we had 3 different teams in Sumner County that won national championships. You know, I thought, hey, let's bring them all in. You know? Logistically, I didn't realize how big of a crowd that meant. But glad to have all of them. So Liberty Creek Middle School's cheerleading team won the junior high non-tumbling national championship back in January, correct? February, whatever, one of those cold months. We have Coach Brewer and Coach Miles, and they also came in second. They almost won 2 national championships in game day. So we want to make sure that they are congratulated for their accomplishments. And Mr. Johnson, I think, has got a much smaller medal than they all already have. So, you know, if you end up having to palm one day, I'd palm this challenge. But congratulations to all of y'all. Y'all are welcome to stay the entire meeting.
All right. Where's the microphone? All right. Next item on the agenda is recognition of Liberty Creek High School cheerleading team. Come on down.
I have Coach Pascarella and Coach Curtis here with the back-to-back Super Varsity Game Day National Champions in cheerleading, the Liberty Creek High School team. So I want to make sure they also got recognized. That's probably not that big of a deal for them at this point, right? It's like, oh, we got to go back to the board again.
Thank you. Congratulations.
Thank you.
All right, ladies and gentlemen, next item on the agenda is recognition of Station Camp High School Bison Bells dance team.
All right. We also had the Station Camp Bison Bells, who are the 2024 Medium Varsity Division II Game Day National Champions. This is their second time being national champions as well. They won it in 2020 as well. And we've got Coach Leonard, Coach Miles, and Coach Bain to thank for that. So we want to be sure to bring them here as well. I mean, we got 3 national champions within 3 miles of one another. So I think that's pretty impressive.
Next item on the agenda is recognition of Station Camp High School wrestling team.
Once you come around here, because I think earlier I was trying to go with the coaches. I didn't get, so you can help me. All right, good evening, everybody. This is so fun, getting to recognize all you awesome students and your accomplishments. This is the Station Camp High School wrestling team. Anybody looking for some bodyguards, this would be a great group to pick from. And the reason that I am taking the lead on this recognition is because Mr. John Ratcliffe lives in my district. This unique team has a combination of the Station Camp students and the Merrill High Magnet. I believe there's 6. How many Merrill High Magnet students are 8?
I think there's 8 of us.
8 on the Station Camp High School team. So that is wonderful that they can join into this group. And there have been some awesome accomplishments in a very short period of time. So allow me. Team accomplishments: the Bear Brawl champs, the district dual champs, the regional dual champs, the sectional dual champs. 5th place in the state, 12 sectional qualifiers, 10 state qualifiers, and 4 state places. Who are the 4 state guys that made it to state?
Raise your hands.
Great job. This team has excelled when faced with injuries, which comes with what you do. There have been many. Sickness and the length of the wrestling season. The team beat every team in Sumner County. This team is just in the 3rd year. This all started when Principal Art Crook allowed Coach Tyler, his head coach, Karan, to start the team. And what this team has accomplished is truly amazing. I do want to name them, and we do have some challenge medallions for you to take with you as a momentum of just being recognized tonight by the Sumner County School Board. There is, and you can help me. Do you want to name them?
Yes, ma'am, I will do so.
This is kind of head coach. You read my handwriting?
Yes, ma'am, it's neat handwriting, by the way.
Oh, I get it paid plus.
Yeah. First, well, I'll just list it from what she has here. Cohen Oswald, if you want to give a salute. Yeah. Logan Duncan, Asher Christie, Nate Graham, Fletcher Beck, Jay Hill, Aiden Oswald, Bryce Van Story, Calvin Rickard, Caden Moore, Kyron Fielder, Lincoln Rich, Trayson Pettis, Robert Branson, Eston Bricker, Mike Welty, Colton Dunn, Jesus Cardenas, Caleb Brown, Alex Inez, Kason Cook, Garrett Relaford, Cooper Overhauser, Lincoln Smith, Josh Bernouin, John Ratcliffe, Everett Blackburn, Cash Hatfield, James Craig, Colton Lowry, Eli Blackburn, Colt Barber, John Worrell, Colin Hoffman, and Sayla Berryhill, who is officially starting our girls wrestling team all by herself. I am so And I want to give a special thanks to Jordan. Where are you at, Jordan? She has taken on the leadership role. I don't really like the word manager, so we call it the leadership team. And so she's taken on the leadership team for for the wrestling team, and I'm so proud of her as well. I'll name the guys that were all state. Nate Graham lost a heartbreaker in the semifinals, took 3rd place, was so close to being a state champion. Fletcher Beck took 5th place. Cohen Oswald took 6th place. And Calvin Rickard took 4th place. Good job, guys.
You guys have worked hard. How many of you guys play football too? Or play other sports? Wrestling is just an awesome sport for just all athletics. But we wanted to recognize you tonight, and you just keep on keeping on, doing what you do. And I'm so excited about a girls wrestling team. It's awesome, Sayla. It's awesome. Congratulations.
Hey, let's see. Hey,
I'm not gonna say y'all don't have time to do there's no doubt.
If you get their attention,
That's all the influence.
start a fire. That's what we'll have to bring some firewood.
Can't buy.
I'm burning up.
I'm going.
She does something. Bill Walchuk.
All right, I think we're back to order now. I don't have a microphone, but I think we're back to order.
Mr. Chairman,
Mr. Wiles.
while we're in this session of recognition, I've been asked several times if I was planning on getting hungry tonight. And so I thought I'd reveal what has happened here. The Thursday before spring break, I found out that the Resource Center was running extremely low on peanut butter. And that is one of the most frequently requested food items. So I called Dr. Langford on Thursday before spring break and asked him if he could get the central office, everybody in the central office, to bring a jar of peanut butter to work on Friday and get it to the Resource Center. Because I could see children going home that week of spring break and not having enough food. So my lovely bride went to the store the other day and she brought back some cans of jars of peanut butter. Mr. Johnson, I'd like for you to get these peanut butter jars over to the Family Resource Center tomorrow. And I would like to challenge everyone in this room to get at least a jar of peanut butter through the school, through your school, wherever, and let's flood that place with peanut butter so we don't have this problem again. Thank you.
Next item on the agenda, the recognition of Stacy Lane from Portland West Middle School nurse, Ms. Herrick.
So that was a lot of really fun stuff, and I'm going to get serious for a minute, but I want you to hang with me because there's a good outcome. Thus far this school year, we've had 140 emergencies across the district. At least one a year, sometimes two a year of those emergencies are cardiac in nature. They require CPR, and quite often they require an AED to be used to save a student's life. This is why we train. This is why we fund AEDs in the school buildings. I remember a day where we did not have even a single AED in every building in the district, and we have well over 100 now. And we have them in our sports complexes. We have them strategically placed throughout the buildings, and there's a science to that. We have them in the hands of our athletic trainers. So from not one at every school, I mean, we were in the 20s at one point, 10 years ago, and we're over 100 now. And I can't continue without really thanking you all for the consistent support in prioritizing the medical safety of our students. I know you all have a lot of decisions to make, and there's a lot of things to fund that you have to decide on, but this has been a consistent support from you all that's allowed us to do this. So I really wanted to thank you all in the process of honoring this phenomenal nurse. So a couple of weeks ago, and I think some of you all are aware, a couple of weeks ago we had an incident with a student at one of our Portland schools. There's not a lot of information that I'm at liberty to share, but what I can share is the student became distressed, collapsed, and was in need of CPR, ultimately receiving CPR, and had to unfortunately be shocked with an AED twice before he resumed a normal pulse that was consistent with life. He was, subsequently transported, and I'm happy to report, I can't report a lot, but I'm happy to report that all is well. And that could have turned out very differently. We never know when that could have a different outcome, but this is why we train and why we put the things in place that we do. The phenomenal nurse that was involved in that rescue is Stacy Lane, and I want to tell you just a little bit about her before I bring her up here. Stacy is a Portland High School graduate, a Sumner County Schools girl, a resident of Portland for her entire life. She has been a nurse for 27 years. She's been a nurse practitioner for 21 years, and she's been with the school system for 8 years. And we're very, very lucky to have her. She is so dedicated to her community. So this job fits perfectly with her dedication to her community. I've never met a person more involved, deeply loving her community than Stacy. So I want to present this board coin to Stacy. It's just a token from you all and from us on the acknowledgement of her hard work and her amazing accomplishments.
Thank you, Ms. Herring. Thank you, Ms. Lane. God bless you. We appreciate you very much. Next item on the agenda is executive session. We don't have an executive session. Next item on the agenda is reports from the director. Number 1, update on Liberty Creek Sewer. Hallelujah for that.
Let me say, as Stacy's leaving, let me say that, I know Ms. Herring can't give out a lot of information, but let me just say our nurses are lifesavers. They do so many things every day that no one sees or knows about, but this is the second time in 3 years where we've had a nurse that's directly saved the life of a Sumner County student. Three. And, we're seeing more. I think we had another incident where one of our nurses was at a cheer competition. It's not a school sanction or anything we had to do with, but there
That was actually a HOSA teacher.
Yeah, a
That was
HOSA
also a
teacher.
nurse.
HOSA teacher is a nurse that delivered CPR and AED to save the life of a child, not a Sumner County student. But the commitment of our nursing and health staff to make sure our kids are thriving is just beyond. So I mean, it's a miracle that everything fell into place like it did. But thank you for being there, taking charge, and doing what you did to say I can't. I can't thank you enough for the work that you did. So thank you so much. I really appreciate you. All right, so I get to the Liberty Creek Sewer in just a second. It's the ongoing Liberty Creek Sewer saga, but I want to take just a moment to say, if you had a chance to follow the news over the last 2 or 3 weeks. We were featured, Hendersonville High School was featured on Nickelodeon. If you got a chance to see the Sergio that the class made the prosthetic hand for last year, helped make a way for a dog with only 2 legs to be able to maneuver and walk, and they were recognized on Nickelodeon. We were also recognized for first in the world pilot with Amazon to do Lean Six Sigma. We're blessed in Sumner County. We've got one of the innovators of Lean Six Sigma, Charlie Haygood. It's a Beach High School supporter and parent, and we're already talking about some ways that we can extend that for our kids to have more opportunities. Just another way our CTE programs are just crushing it and providing more opportunities. I will encourage you, I've done lots of crazy things over the years in pep rallies. I would strongly encourage you to never get slimed. Jeremy and Kelly loaded our slime with extra glue. I don't like it. You know when something gets dumped on you and it runs halfway down your nose and then it freezes? You know that it's going to be special. Dr. Sawyers had his head on a swivel the entire time to make sure that he didn't get slimed, because that was the original plan. But I'm really appreciative for Hendersonville High School and the work that they've done. And then, the work with Lean Six Sigma is something that opens up doors. We'll have some announcements coming in the next month or two. We've been working. We're in a really great time in education when everybody's realizing that the model, one of the positives that I think that came out of the pandemic is everybody realizes it's a great time to make some changes to the way we do K-12 education. And I think Frankie and Chase and I were at a meeting yesterday at Vol State. It had Belmont, Ford Sumner, a couple other groups, and everybody's just sitting down at the table working like, how can we get kids into internships? How can we get them into work study? How can we look and truly build out a system that's K-14 and take advantage of the money that's there so we can get around? We still have a significantly large group of students that, do like probably Sumner County kids have done for the last 40, 50 years, which is, I don't quite know what I want to do, so I'm going to go to Vol State. It's even more pronounced now that we have 2 years of free school, but they're going there to figure out what they want to do. We've actually been talking about, one of the things I'm really excited about, we're talking about sharing, like we have U-Science data that talks about career aptitude. We're going to be able to share that with Vol State so that when they're advising students, they can help find their way into a path. The legislature, there's a good chance that there's going to be a bill that passes that extends the number of of dual enrollment classes that kids can earn, and it's going to start shifting in. For a long time, you had to have a 19 on the ACT to be able to take a dual enrollment class. They're pushing that out a lot more into CTE courses now, so we're going to be able to get a kid. Every student in Sumner County should have an 18, 19 on the ACT. Many of the ones that don't, it's not because they can't get an 18 or 19 on the ACT, it's that they need to find out a reason why they should make an 18 or 19 on the ACT. They don't see the value in sitting there for 3 or 4 hours and pouring themselves into a test if it's not what they want to do. If we can get them into some CTE courses and some dual enrollment courses, and they can see, hey, if you're going to go get some of these jobs that pay $150,000, $160,000, you need a 23 or 24 on the ACT to get into the training program, or you got to have an 18 or 19. Nissan is creating their own university. You can start working at Nissan now when you're 16. They'll pay you $18.50 an hour. Works for all of their parts suppliers. I think you're going to see that as a model moving forward, where businesses and industry are going to start partnering with K-12 education to train and educate kids, where kids can come out of college or career education with no debt. And I think that's all really exciting. So I think Ms. Skinner can certainly chime in, but it was very encouraging to, we've had those conversations every year. And I would say 6 years ago, or 2018, when I first came up here, when you had those conversations, the silos between the different educational institutions were pretty high. And those are pretty much gone now. We've got a great relationship with Vol State, with Belmont, with our TCATs, and that's pretty exciting. All right, to jump into the Liberty Creek saga. All right, I signed 42 different pieces of paper on Thursday to get the plat registered. We took it around. We had all the signatures except White House Utility District, who decided to take the weekend to review it. They signed it yesterday. We got the plat registered. So Thursday at 4 p.m. Okay, Philip's gone. We were debating whether it's going to be 4 p.m. or 5 p.m. So at either 4 p.m. or 5 p.m., this may be more than you want to know about sewers. All right, we got to cut the water and everything and let everything drain and dry. And it takes about 3 days to dry. So either Sunday night or Monday morning about 4 a.m., they are going to fire it up and connect the sewer. So Monday, we will have the first official flush in the new sewer. So if you, I would encourage you all to email Dr. Holt and see if he's having a ceremony, or a toilet paper run through or something like that. But after the craziest journey, I'm thankful that the Planning Commission passed and approved for the plat to be registered, and we got there on that. If you hear, there were a couple citizens that showed up at the Planning Commission with some questions about runoff, and it's an interesting thing. Like when the it's a debate that's been going on for a couple years. When the civil engineers go out there, there's actually less water running off that hill than there was before the construction of Liberty Creek High School. But the difference is where it's catching on the road, and you can just see it because that bank used to sit up like this, and now it comes down like this, so the water's coming. We were in a position where Biskin our contractor did everything they were supposed to. They met all the engineering standards, everything like that. So we can't ask Biskin to go out and do stuff that isn't in their contract to do. What we're going to do to try to make it right, part of it is working with the roads department. We already had some conversations with Mr. Ellis. There's a place on the road, there's a culvert that needs some work, and then there's some work that needs to be done on one of the farms right there to try to catch some more of that water and get it into the ditch to run out into the creek. If you look at the water, it's clean, it's clear, it's been filtered, it's all the environmental stuff is done right. But we had to get this plat registered so we could get the sewer open, so we could get the final, so we could start closing things out. And now we're going to be able to go. So we'll have something probably over the next couple months when we can figure out exactly what we need to do to take care of the families right around the front part of Liberty Creek's campus. So that'll be coming. I don't think it's anything that's going to be terribly expensive or anything like that. Maybe something that our maintenance team can do, but we'll just have to get somebody to look at it and we'll figure it out. But it's one of those things where it's an unintended consequence of construction. Everybody met all the specs they were supposed to, but we also want to be good neighbors and take care of those that live around the campus. Now, we did have one neighbor that complained about the wolf howling during football games, and I was like, I think I can do something about the water, but the wolf howling is probably going to be a feature of living around Liberty Creek now. I don't think, we can do some things. When Portland High School got their new sign, if you turn on one of these brand new LED signs and you don't adjust the whites, like you can see it from the moon. And so we were able to turn the whites down and then turn it off at like 10 o'clock. But we're always going to try to do the best job we can to be good neighbors. So that's a Liberty Creek sewer update. I'm happy if you have any questions.
Ms. Andrews?
I do have questions. So when you say that the water is being shut off on the campus, is that the entire campus? Because it's baseball and softball season, and I do notice that softball for sure has a home game on Saturday. There are going to be porta potties there. Okay. They're not going to be luxury porta potties. They're just old-fashioned porta potties. Have we informed the team that
Yes.
okay. I just want to make sure that we don't go into a game with people coming and.
It's going to be inconvenient for one weekend, but
That's fine,
we're
but I
turning the
just
sewer
want to make
on.
sure that we know it. I would rather us know that going in and be prepared than get there and go, oh, we forgot.
And it works, in the sense that it happens to be coincide with Easter weekend. That does limit the amount of campus activities a little bit. I don't know that travel sports stop for anything, but they at least slow down a little bit for Easter.
Mr. King?
Yeah, you mentioned the farm that's having some flooding. Is that the one that's on the south side next to the property?
Yeah. Yes,
Okay,
sir.
yeah, I was just curious.
If you're coming in, it's the one by the main entrance. There's a couple of different issues. One issue is the water's coming in off the hill. The way the road is currently constructed with the culvert, it has to make 3 right turns. Water doesn't like to make 3 right turns, evidently, so it's running across the road. So that's the part we'll have to work with the highway department. The other is there's a retention pond, and then
that's the one I'm thinking of.
Yeah, then he has a pond right there, and that's the one that we're going to get in and look at.
Okay.
But it's a weird thing because there's actually, like, they've come out and measured, there's less water coming off the hill than there was before, but it's the way, because of the construction, it's the way that it's catching. We're just going to see what we can do to make it better.
All right, proceed. Dr. Lambert?
Okay, update on capital projects. You have a number of items on the agenda tonight. We're going to do a capital budget presentation in April and study session. We've talked about that for a couple of months. I believe we're in a pretty good place to be able to share that, especially as we go into, just to give you, we'll have our budget presentation workshop in May. So this will be a good way, instead of having, when Ms. Brown and I were talking about it, it's hard when you're doing the budget to take in. We won't have every capital item ready. There will be some that we'll still have to do for the budget presentation in May. We'll be able to give you enough to look at where we can have a couple of weeks, 6 weeks of conversation instead of pushing everything into one meeting. So we should be able, and if y'all want to make some changes, we can certainly adjust for that. It gives us enough time to, Amanda Brown is entering into the crazy season of her life. Just to let you know, there's about 144,000 lines of data that she analyzes for our budget. It's incredibly complex. It's made some of the complicating factors this year is that this is our first real run of TISA. We've got one data point from last year, so it's still like the state has still not fully been able to do an accurate run of what money we will get from TISA. They're still tweaking things and figuring things out. So we've got a decent indication of what our revenue is going to be, but it's not pinpoint accurate yet. And so hopefully in the next few weeks, we don't typically get that until around the first week of April anyway, but hopefully we should get a run in the next 5 or 6 days, because they do it by the month for TISA. So we should that should fix, like we fixed a ton of things that were in the state system. They had run a pilot on coding economically disadvantaged students and then decided that it needed to go back the old way instead of the way we'd coded it all year. So there's going to be some, and it's just like you get a certain amount of money for each kid that qualifies in those. It's a totally student-centered funding formula. So we're adjusting to that in learning. Ms. Brown's team has done, Trevor's over here too, they've done a tremendous job of forecasting and predicting and things like that. So we'll be able to look at capital in April, and then we'll jump into the full budget in May. I want to give you just a little bit on what's on the agenda for tonight. There's some civil engineering for Beach, Hendersonville, and Portland, and then there's some geotech for Beach and Hendersonville. Those are because, like, when we met with the communities, we did a first run estimate of fees based on what we thought it was going to be. As we got and met with the communities and we tweaked those projects, obviously there were more design fees, and so this captures the rest of the design fees there. And then the other GHS track, Station Camp High School track, and Merrill High tennis is on there as well. Those are the engineering and surveying fees, design fees for those projects. And I'm happy to answer any questions.
Mr. Lancaster.
Since we're just doing it, I just would like a quick update on, I've had a couple people ask, like, is everything on track for Liberty Creek Middle and White House near me? I know we're talking about stadiums and sewer, but
yeah, we
also have the schools. So.
We are light years ahead of where we were at Liberty Creek High School, Liberty Creek Elementary. They're in good shape. We don't have an exact occupancy date yet, but I'm going up to tour White House Intermediate on Monday. And so, we had a fear for a while because you couldn't get, I think it was capacitors or something like that. There was like a 18-month waiting list in one school district. The capacitor was like 60,000 or something like that, and they offered 100,000. They told them, like, you're not even in the ballpark of what people are offering for these. But we've gotten all those without having to pay exorbitant prices or anything like that. So we should be in, we're not hearing of any product, supply chain breaks or anything like that. So everything looks pretty good so far. It helps, like at Liberty Creek Middle, we already had all the infrastructure built, so that cut down a lot of potential hiccups. And then really with White House Intermediate, because we already have White House Middle School right there, you're just running off the same thing. So we're in good shape. I'll try to get an occupancy date for next month and see if we have an idea.
And the other thing, I know we're still in the somewhat cool time of year, but do we have a timeline on Jack Henderson's HVAC?
We ordered it the day after the board meeting. Right. It's a 3 to 4 week lead time. Mr. Brown's got we've been very fortunate that it stayed cool. He's got some ideas in case we hit, hopefully we won't hit any 80s, but we should be about 2 weeks into that. Tomorrow will be 2 weeks in, so hopefully in the next 2 weeks we'll have it.
Is it the whole building is out, or just parts of the building?
It's Jeremy, do you know? It's the main cooling tower, so it would affect the whole building because of the way that system is constructed. It's not the whole HVAC system, but because of the cooling tower, it's going to affect it. But
Yeah, what he said is that there are parts of the building that work just not as well without it. And so there's some cool, but not as cool as we would like for it to be.
Yeah, I think that's how most of those cool guys. Like,
Yeah.
you'll have it.
Yeah.
Half the building will somewhat
Yeah.
see cool, and then
Yeah.
I know he can bring in that industrial
Yeah.
thing.
Yeah, and you can actually run it. You can run the current cooling tower. It's just going to leak. So if we have to, we can turn it on and run it. It won't bring it to 70 degrees, but it'll bring it down to where it's tolerable. I mean, the crazy thing in this is that Jack Anderson couldn't have been over 100 yards from getting destroyed by the tornado. I mean, it was so close to getting hit by the tornado, and then the cooling tower gets knocked out in the snow. It just, you know, thankful that we avoided the tornado, but that was a casualty of the winter weather.
Like,
Mr. Lancaster, Mr. Graham?
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I got two questions. One, so does the septic system just stay there in perpetuity? Like, in 80 years, are we going to have a director of schools be like, we didn't even realize it was there. We started digging.
That's a great question. I don't even know. I'll have to find that out, Mr. Graham. But I can tell you the one thing that we won't have now because of the way we build stadiums is basically that's what happened at Portland somewhere around 1978. Somebody just ran a line out in the field and put a septic tank in.
Yeah.
And I mean, when we took over the stadium in 2016 at White House, Andy's guys came up and they looked and they go, there are pipes everywhere. It's like, yeah, because Dad's did the plumbing on this building for 45 years. And, you know, there was no city management or oversight in White House in those days.
Yeah,
you know, we ran into that a little bit in Hendersonville too.
I didn't know if there was like an environmental concern of a non-working septic facility.
The other great thing now is everything's TDEC managed, but Jeremy may know more. He knows a lot more about this
Yes,
stuff.
that's actually what they're draining. And so they're draining the sewer pipe, they're draining the septic part of it, and then they're going to cap it off, and it'll stay down there. And you know, it would be available for use if we need it. The difference in it in Portland is it'll be capped off and routed around. That's what they're doing. And in theory, the blueprints will still be around in 50 years. Who knows? But hopefully, they'll still be on blueprints where people will see it. Like, you know, in the past, we weren't as diligent about having blueprints and keeping them. But that's actually what they're draining down is the septic tank part.
And then my second question, it's not pertaining to anything in your report, but I was kind of hoping it would be covered, just because I know I've been bombarded, and I would assume my fellow board members have as well. Obviously, Rutherford County closed schools because of the solar eclipse. I didn't know if you were going to have any type of announcement to say we're not doing that, or you know, put a lot of the rumor mills on social media to rest.
I hate to, you know, I don't think there's a good anti-eclipse closing video that I could make, but I just don't see, I was kind of shocked that Rutherford closed, but I don't see, you know, you'd have to drive to Paducah or Memphis to actually see the eclipse. I don't think it makes good sense to close school. I sent something out to principals this afternoon to say that because I've had several families reach out and say, we're going to travel to Paducah, we're going to travel to Memphis, we want to make this a big day for our children, it's a great time to learn. We're like, have at it, just send a note and we'll excuse it with a parent note. Not a problem at all. You know, please go and have that experience with your children. But I don't think to close down for 30,000 students to, you know, I watched a video last night that showed if you have the glasses on, you can see a little bit of the eclipse, but you know, we've given some guidelines to principals, like if you want to be able to go outside and look at it, we obviously don't want kids walking outside looking at the sun. That's a bad, what Ms. Herring would object to that. But we gave some guidelines, like, you know, if you're going to go outside to look at the eclipse, you need to you need to have signed permission forms from parents, and you need to have glasses that meet the standards of protecting eyes from ultraviolet rays and all the different stuff. Like they have them now. You know, like what we found in 2017 is it's more regulated now. In 2017, there was nothing that was actually really ultraviolet compliant. They just snacked those stickers on everything and sold them. But yeah, so that's the eclipse announcement. We're going to school.
Thank you, Mr. Graham. Ms. Andrews.
Yeah, piggybacking off of what Mr. Lancaster asked specifically about White House Intermediate and Liberty Creek Middle, as we're getting closer to the end of the school year, I know parents are looking ahead to next year.
Mhm.
Do we have a timeline on when we will announce the school start times for those two schools?
Yeah, we should be able to do that pretty soon. We're debating, you know, White House Intermediate, H.B. Williams is it's our first run at having a K2, 3, 5 school or split. So we're gonna have to think about, we're going to look at some numbers and figure out transportation with busing. It's really hard to change start times because you basically, like if you change that start time, you've got White House Intermediate and H.B. Williams starting at 7:15, White House High School, White House Middle School starting at 8:15. So you need that hour in there. If you change that time much, it really throws busing off. But you know, because especially White House is one of those areas where you're running some pretty long routes because of the rural parts that you catch. Because you think like kids from Oakmont go to White House Middle, so you're rolling all the way out to Oakmont, back in all the way down to Millersville. So it presents a little bit of a challenge, but we should have those finalized. I would anticipate that it'll be around 7:15 for both campuses, and then I can't remember on White House. I'm on Liberty Creek Middle. Liberty Creek Middle will set the same time that they have currently. I would think so. It'll be the same thing.
Somewhere in there. Okay. Hopefully to have that in stone finalized by April, May meeting.
We should
something
have
like
that done. Yeah, I mean it's really close. We're just looking at some bus routes and things like that. So
Okay.
just want to make sure it's right before we push it out.
Thank you, Ms. Andrews.
You won't have to worry. Dr. Mason will communicate well with the White House Intermediate community, Mr. Witt will at H.B. Williams, and then, you know, Mr. Bennett, it'll be easy because he already has his students. He'll be able to send reminds and get the word out.
Ms. Hayes.
Yes, thank you, Chairman. You may not be finished yet with your director's report. Are you?
No.
Good. I want to hear about this third and fourth grade retention.
Okay, that's coming. I've got one more thing before we get there. Fire protection services for Millersville. Okay, I don't want to get involved in the politics of Millersville right now. Okay, but I've had a lot of questions about what we're going to do. I checked with Mayor Isbell, and the city of Millersville does not currently have all the licensure that's required to be able to provide emergency medical services. They've hired a fire chief. It's up and down on how many firefighters that they have now. That's not our concern at all. That's the city of Millersville to figure out. We're in a little different scenario than we were when we were talking about Beach High School, because the city of Millersville Elementary is in the city of Millersville, and currently they have MOUs with the city of Goodlettsville and the city of White House. We had a child that broke an arm at Millersville last week, or week before spring break, and Sumner County EMS dispatched White House. They came down, took the child to the hospital. I've talked to the city manager in Goodlettsville. He's going to talk to their fire chief tomorrow, but he felt like they're going to. He's like, we're not going to cover everything in Millersville, but we're going to cover an emergency at the school. So we're going to continue to monitor that. But right now, Goodlettsville didn't feel like we needed to do anything formal, that they've got it covered if something happens at the elementary school. But because they have that MOU, not MOU, that mutual aid agreement with the city of Millersville right now. Now that could change because the city of White House and the city of Millersville are having to weigh out what changes they're going to make to their policies based on what happens in Millersville. But for right now, there's not a need for us to formally do that. I just wanted to update you on where we are. Okay. And then third and fourth grade retention. Ms. Heston is on the way. She had her daughter is going to, I probably shouldn't say this on the airwaves, but Gallatin High School has a trip going to, they're following the D-Day route to victory. They're doing for the 80th anniversary of D-Day, they're going all the way to Berlin. And so I think there's about 25 or 30 kids from Gallatin High School going on that trip. So I'm pretty jealous of that trip.
They need a chaperone.
That's amazing.
You know, interestingly, Mr. Lancaster, they have plenty of chaperones for these trips.
I would like to do that.
I know if you've ever stood on the beach in Normandy, it's an unbelievable experience.
So I'll let you read that first page there, kind of outlines all the things and let you digest that. I can walk you through it, but I think you'll be better off reading it and then asking any questions that you may have.
You didn't create that, did you?
What?
You didn't create this, did you? I said you didn't create this, did you?
I did not create this. This is from the state.
Yeah,
Mhm.
I can tell.
It's clear.
A lot of oars.
We like oars when it comes from the state.
This is their newest update. March 12th was when this update was created. I can walk you through the other pieces of documentation too, but do you need more time to read? Questions?
Lancaster.
Okay. Unless I'm missing something, it doesn't seem like anything really has changed a whole lot in the third grade retention. Is that a true statement or a false statement?
Correct. They are going to allow tutoring during the day,
Okay.
but it has to meet the number, which is 1 to 3 students per tutor. That might be challenging for some of our schools, but we'll cross that bridge when we get there. But that can be allowed during the day instead of before and after school, so that's good.
And we are allowed, or the school, authorized school personnel is allowed to appeal on the child's or our student's behalf
Correct.
without parent permission?
Have to have parent permission to do the appeal, but the parents don't actually have to do it this time. We can do it for them, but we still have to have their permission to do that.
And so would we get that ahead of time, like from this, like?
So that next piece of paper there is the third grade retention timeline.
Okay.
It's really tight. Hi.
Sorry, guys.
So the question is parent appeals, the timeline.
Okay. So parent appeals for third grade students is different this year than last year. Last year, 2 grounds for appeal. Well, ground 1, 40th percentile, a 2 on TCAP, and a waiver approved by the state. This year, ground 1 was changed due to Public Charter 338, which now says if a student scores in the 50th percentile on the Universal Screener, Ames Web, and agrees to tutoring, they can go on to 4th grade without a waiver. 2 measures, I got a 2 in the 50th percentile, and I'm gonna go to tutoring all of 4th grade, provided by All-Core next year. They go to 4th. I believe there were likely tons of appeals made to the state, and state approval was required, not district approval, And to expedite that process, 50th percentile, a 2, agreeing to tutor, you go on. Ground 1 for an appeal is no longer due to Public Charter 338. Ground 2, a catastrophic event, is still in place. If there's a catastrophic event and there's some options listed there, it's not like I'm mad at my mom, right? There's real catastrophic events which we know our students do experience. Those happen the day of or 60 days prior to the state assessment. You qualify for ground 2. That appeal is made to the state. It could be completed by the parent or with parent approval by an administrator, and that approval is made by the state.
So 50th percentile means grade level, just so you're aware of that. I
So-
just went on third grade question.
Okay.
I guess my question then is on this waiver,
Yes, sir.
this 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 bullet points down, or 5th over.
Yes, sir.
All right, so if it's, explain what is the difference between everything else? What is the academic remediation plan?
So this is you can see this update was made on the 12th of March. An academic remediation plan, we've had an academic remediation plan in place in retention as policy for a while.
So that's nothing special.
It's nothing new. It's going to be a tier 3 intervention, some type of level of intervention for a student. This is a new addition to as a pathway for students as well.
Okay. So if they're in the 40th percentile.
Correct.
That's different from the 50th.
Yes, you've got bullet 1, 50th percentile. I'm going to tutoring. I'm moving on. Okay, but that 5th one, like you're pointing out, says if a parent approves, if the parent or authorized personnel approves the retention decision or appeals it, there's documentation that you're in the 40th percentile, and that you have an academic remediation plan agreed on by the LEA, by the school, and by the parent. Then you can go on to 4th grade with tutoring.
Okay. And for me that don't know anything about anything, but what the Tennessee All-Core tutoring, is that online? Is that our employees? Is that state? Who are those people?
So All-Core has been an option since this retention plan was revised and in full effect. As a district, we did not participate. We opted out. Other surrounding districts did as well and did not participate in All-Core because with that came a list of things. You could have volunteers, you could have church groups, you could have whomever, once they complete this certification, become a tutor. We use our ESSER funds to compensate our teachers as tutors in that they know the students, they're experts, they're certified teachers, experts in the field, and we went that route, creating our own tutoring plan for Sumner County. We presented on that a few years ago. Going forward, ESSER's done, and this expectation is still in place. TN All-Core will be an expectation for all school districts next year, and I believe the funding will be provided through the state. That's the difference. So All-Core isn't new to the state, it's new to our district, and that we'll be participating in that next school year.
We made the choice a couple years ago when All-Core started. There were some requirements on it that we didn't think were best for our school system. They wanted us to commit something like 20% of our ESSER funds and tie it up into tutoring and things like that. And, you know, it's hard to spend that much money on tutoring in some of the other areas, and districts that did it have been kind of hamstrung by some of those rules and regulations. We didn't feel comfortable that it met the needs for what we wanted to do to address our students' needs, but it looks like now there's still a fuzzy area out about whether they're going to force us to go on to All-Core. I received an email earlier this week that said that basically the state is not going to spend, they're not going to be able to spend all of their ESSER money, but there's an extension that you can get from the federal government to get more time. And so they're going to liquidate everything that they've got out there that's not going to be spent, and they're going to probably roll that into tutoring. So there's going to be money available next year to help support tutoring, because it's not, basically tutoring is written into the law, but the funding for tutoring is not there. But, you know, and there's one bill in the legislature right now that would require tutoring in middle school as well. So I don't know the status of that one. but we'll keep watching that. But there may be money that comes as they liquidate ESSER funds from other lines and consolidate it into all-core tutoring. All-core tutoring meets the requirements of the law in terms of its low numbers, like 1-to-3 ratio. It's going to be, you know, I'll be honest, like that's going to be one of those laws, especially if they expand it to other grades. It's going to be really hard for us to meet the requirements of, because of the numbers of a scale of a district our size, enrolling that many tutors in, because we have lots of people that will volunteer to come occasionally and tutor, but to say that they're going to come 2 or 3 times a week for 45 minutes, it's hard to build a consistent number of people outside the teachers and assistants that you have in the building to do tutoring at that volume. So I would anticipate, if we're going to commit to this long term, we're going to look at, the state's going to have to look at some other options. You know, AI, digital. There won't be a silver bullet for it. There's nothing better than a face-to-face individual teacher working 1-to-3 with the ratio with kids. There's no question that works best, but the scale of it is hard to manage.
So, if that's where we're going, do we have policy issues that creates from the standpoint of all of a sudden you got all these people coming into a school that are not staff?
We would have to. We couldn't. If you come into the school to tutor, you'd have to be background checked, fingerprinted,
exactly.
badged.
You got to go all that. Mm-hmm. But they're not Sumner County staff, right?
Well, if we're paying them, they would be part-time staff, so they would have to meet all the obligations. The problem, I think, would be is that I think we would have a steady churn of people. Some of it would be good. You'd have some people that come on who would love it and they'd stay on for a couple of years. You'd have some that would come and try it for 2 or 3 weeks and say, "This isn't my cup of tea," and they would, they would bail out. And then you'd have to find new people, badge them. You know, our HR department has gotten very fast at going through the process of badging, going through background check, fingerprinting, and badging. They've got it down to about a week and a half, but I mean, you're still talking about a churn of personnel to try to meet the needs.
Okay.
Yeah. I mean, we don't have any policy problems like the tutoring part. The low ratio tutoring is part of the law. It's part of the Reading 360 law, so it's in the code. We have to do it, and it's best for kids. It's just figuring out how to make it work.
So looking at this graphic, it's super helpful to show the different pathways to 4th grade. There are not major changes to what was launched last year. It's much the same, with the exception of, like Mr. Lancaster pointed out, 1 is a little different than 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. But looking at what's best for kids and students that are exempt, those things are pretty much the same from last year, with the exception of the minor tweaks there. What you will find new is, if you move on, and the students make it to 4th grade, what happens from 4th to 5th? Okay, and you see on that column there, it says students must demonstrate adequate growth. Last year's 3rd graders that were promoted to 4th grade because of the completion of a program, tutoring or summer school, are still subject to the retention law for 4th to 5th. They have to make adequate growth, a measure set by the state and a formula set by the state to move to 5th grade. Unless they are a special ed student, that's the really only exemption. There's not an exemption with the services for reading, so not a speech child or something. There's a special ed need that impacts their ability to read, then they may be exempt. There's not a whole list of exemptions. The state, in order to do what's best for students, has looked at different ways to figure that adequate growth. They've heard from parents, hey, listen, I know that their reading scores were low, but have you seen their math? Have you seen their science? What are we going to do spinning our wheels in math and science next year when we've got that mastered? We need some help in reading. Adequate growth will be figured 3 different ways. And the measure used for this group of students only promoted to 4th grade because of tutoring or summer school, a program. So we're talking about a limited number of students. 4th grade parents know that it's not every kid. Okay, so those students who were promoted due to a program, their adequate growth will be figured 3 ways and landed upon in a way that, on the formula that is best for students. Way 1, using their actual fourth grade scores. How much did they grow from third grade to fourth grade? Okay. Second way, their retest. If their retest in third grade was higher, and that will be less growth needed at their proficiency mark, that measure will be used. So either their original TN Ready score, their retake score, or a composite of math, ELA, and science. That composite score figured to the percent of being proficient divided by 8 as the state's formula to be voted on in the next few weeks. Whichever of those benefits the student most, that's the measure that will be used. Only for those students who have completed a program to get to fourth. Not all fourth grade students. Okay? So those are 3 different ways of figuring adequate growth. They will err on the side that is most beneficial to the student, but students who went to fourth grade or because of a program will have to make adequate growth to go to fifth, and those are the 3 ways to figure it. It's a very difficult thing to clearly explain to parents. We're doing the best we can, along with every district across the state, to clearly explain the ways those numbers are figured, and we're in communication with parents about that. Before questions on that, these other pieces, these other 3 sheets, the timeline for parents, for third grade parents, for fourth grade parents, and the home literacy report, those other 3 pages are communications pieces that will be sent home to families before Friday. Okay, some of this has already been provided to parents. This is nothing that the fourth grade students that are impacted have already heard from their schools. Third grade this is their now 3rd piece of communication about retention. And so this is not new to them, but there are dates set that we'll be working towards. Home literacy reports, same as last year. We just finished Mastery Connect standards benchmark across the district. Those reports and that data is in. That information will come home. Did your kids your students score a 2, a 3, a 4, and then also their winter Ames Web composite score that they've already received. Those 2 side by side, compared and what they mean, will be sent home to families along with the timeline by Good Friday. Okay?
Mr. Daniels.
Yeah, just a quick question. I know when they originally started talking about the 4th to 5th grade promotion, a lot of parents were starting to get stressed out because they're thinking, we just went through it in 3rd grade, stressed our kids out for a year, now we made it, and now we've got to go through it again. So that clarification I think is really good. Communicating that, I know that's always a challenge because not everybody always listens. I think we see comments or questions on Facebook where people are asking about, are we closed on Friday? And it's like, just look at the calendar. It's been there, for 2 years or whatever. But my question is, the subset that we're talking about in our county, do we have a number of students that were impacted last year that are going to be in the subset going in 4th grade right now?
I can't speak to the exact number of students that participated in Summer Scholars. I can get that number for you. I know there were 151 students that participated in tutoring for 4th grade across the district. Summer Scholars, if they attended Summer Scholars and they made adequate growth from that pre to post test, they're off the list. If they did not make adequate growth, they're still on that list and have to make it for 4th grade. I can absolutely get you those numbers. They're likely on my computer.
Yeah,
I know 151 is seared. I got that one. But the Summer Scholars, I'd have to get the count for you.
All right. Thank you very much.
Yes, sir.
Thank you, Mr. Daniels. Mr. Lancaster?
2 questions quickly. This was really good. I had a 3rd grader last year, so we got this.
Yes,
I remember getting this several different times.
Mm-hmm.
Are we giving the 4th grade? I know you're sending this.
Mm-hmm.
Are they going to have something based on a screener that said, "Hey"?
We went back and forth with that.
Okay.
Because yes, they do have a home literacy report that's sent home for 4th grade students. Those are sent home across the board. A Mastery Connect report, we talked about that a lot today, about sending that home for parents. We just didn't want that to be confusing. So it's absolutely something we can look at doing. We just aren't sure what that adequate growth, what we're really chewing on is that adequate growth communication, how to clearly communicate that. And I didn't want Mastery Connect to layer in a level of complexity into that. Like, well, wait, they were 2 in Mastery Connect. What's my adequate growth measure? Well, it's 1.7. Just trying to keep that clear.
Fourth graders. It's a subset of 4th graders.
Yes.
And so going through those 3 methods, so you've got what you made on the 3rd grade ELA test originally.
Yes, sir.
Compared to this year's
Yes, sir.
ELA test, if your adequate growth there divided, that crazy
Formula, yes,
divided by
sir.
8 formula.
Mhm.
Or if you retook it, the retake compared to now.
If it's higher, right, if it
Right.
benefits
So
child.
it's basically using the greater of
Yes,
those
sir.
two
Uh-huh.
tests compared to the new one, this
Yes, sir.
year's. The other one is is it composite to composite, or is it composite to?
Oh, that's a
ELA?
great question. That's a great question. These are actually figured completely by the state and provided to us. That's a clarification question I can ask. So did they figure the third grade composite? Go back and figure that and compare composite to composite? I'm not certain. The formula was if they took that composite score, would that be closer to 50%, which would be met expectations? So they really wouldn't need. It would be
I mean, I guess I kind of understand if you took composite to composite, because it's showing if you had growth in other areas, but if you're composite to ELA, that just doesn't.
Yeah, I can get some clarification.
None of it really makes a whole lot of sense.
Sure.
but,
We're definitely
that
grabbing
one's-
straws, but I can get some clarification about that for you.
Okay, thank you.
Yep.
Mr. Lancaster, Mr. King?
Yeah, I'm just to follow up, you were saying that a student that shows adequate growth during summer scholars,
Yes, sir.
they're promoted.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. And if they don't attend summer scholars, and they're approaching, they will. So they don't have to come. They don't have to. Approaching does not have to go to summer scholars, but they will need tutoring.
For third grade, correct.
I'm
Yes.
talking about after
Mhm.
third grade. If they're approaching, they can opt out of going to summer scholars, but then it would be required for them to do tutoring in fourth grade.
Correct.
Okay. Below, if they score below, they have to go to both. No matter,
Yes, sir.
they can't,
Mhm.
unless they test out.
Correct.
Like
Test
they
out,
take-
meaning their retest was.
They take a retest.
Yes.
Okay.
If their retest before school, their retest before school is proficient, you're proficient.
Before school or before summer scholars?
So there's a retest option before school's out. We have made an appeal to the state to have that window moved. So let's say we've got all of our students who scored a 1 and a 2. Just like last year, they have the opportunity to take an online retest to say, hey, maybe you had a bad day. Let's take that online retest, which does not include writing, and turnaround time is immediate. As soon as they hit submit, they get a score. If they score proficient on that retest, then they're fine. If they don't, then that retest will determine if they are a 2, summer school, or if they're a 1, both. That sets their final verdict on the summer. Okay, but that they have a pretest in summer school, which is the TCAP. They've already done it. Here's where you started. In 16 days, if you make adequate growth, there's a formula for that. Then you are done with fourth grade retention. You are good to go to fourth grade, and you will not be on radar for fourth grade, fifth grade retention. But if you went to summer school and you did not make adequate growth is a large thing to ask in 16 days for students. But if you don't make that adequate growth measure, then you're held to the path for fourth.
The retake window from per the state doesn't open until our very last day of school. So we have asked them to adjust that, and they have not.
You haven't heard back quite yet. I'm sure it
Okay.
will be soon.
So this is the first group of students that have gone through this retention law that are now in fourth grade.
Right.
So you talked about the formula coming from the state to determine adequate growth.
Yes, sir.
And we don't have that formula.
We do.
We do have it. Okay.
We have that formula figured 3 different ways. That adequate growth measure.
Oh, that's
figured
right. I'm
three-
sorry.
Yes, sir.
Okay.
Uh-huh.
Okay. So they're going to be going through that for the first time
Correct.
this year.
Those fourth grade students that were promoted due to a program will be experiencing that
score-
adequate growth.
Right.
Not
and
all.
that's their scores or their retest and then the composite.
Yes,
Those are
sir.
the 3 ways, 3 formulas. I'm just
For those,
correct?
just that small group of fourth graders that was promoted due to a program. Yes, sir. Yeah? Yes, sir.
Mr. King, you just turned your light back on. Mr. Wise?
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. As I sit here and listen to these excellent questions, I keep thinking about the student who goes home in a much less than ideal situation.
Yes, sir.
Yes, we put this in their backpack, and the fortunate children As soon as they hit that door and throw that backpack in the floor, mama pulls out that folder and she goes through it all. That's the fortunate child.
Yes, sir.
Our obligation is to treat every child the same.
Yes, sir.
What about that child who walks into his door and drops his backpack on the floor and daddy's not around and hadn't been for years? And mama's high on dope and she don't care.
Or the student.
Let me ask my question. Thank you. What other means of communication besides putting this in the child's folder in his backpack to take home do we have? I'd like to hear that. Thank you.
That's a great question. I think you would be really proud of the efforts by every school admin team in,
I am proud.
yeah, absolutely, in contacting them individually. We have made countless phone calls. We have caught kids in car rider lines. We have made trips. We have documentation of when these things were made to reach those students, because it is a real barrier. Also, the students who just left it on the bus, right? Who just scattered messes as 8-year-olds are. Principals have made individual phone calls, multiple individual phone calls, sent home papers, gone through Remind, emails, even visits at times to make sure that we have lists that we are working through. We've got 12 kids, now we have 8 kids. What about these 6? These 6, and they're making every effort to contact every student that's impacted.
I appreciate that, and it's really good to hear that.
Yes, sir.
And I think the public needed to hear that as well.
Yes, sir.
Thank you.
Yes, sir. Thank you. Good question.
Thank you, Mr. Wise. Mr. Lancaster.
So I'm on, I guess that's how weird I am. I'm on a Facebook group for people in the state, parents in the state about this. And one thing from hearing what you guys are talking about and what I hear them saying is a lot of people are like, well, they're falling into category 2 where they get to pick either summer scholars or what am I trying to say? Tutoring, sorry. Or like, well, I'm just gonna, we don't want to mess with our kid not having a summer, we're just gonna do tutoring. But it seems like the summer scholars gives you a extra opportunity to make adequate grades. In other words, you get, instead of having one other chance, you got 2 chances.
Yes, sir.
Are we allowed to stress, communicate, push, whatever, like, hey, you really need to consider going to summer scholars if you're in the 2 category. If you're in the 1, you got to do both, right?
Yes, sir.
But if you're in the 2, especially if you're right at that, 50%.
We had probably less than 10 students who did not participate in summer scholars last year that needed to. I think it was maybe 4.
Okay. I just know, like I said, I don't know how I got on this Facebook group, but anyway, there's a Facebook group of parents that are all talking about the 3rd and 4th grade retention, and some of the comments that I've read on there is like, well, if I got to do either or, I'm just going to go to, my kids, we've got baseball or whatever. And I understand that, hey, but it seems like there is a strategic opportunity,
For sure.
if there is such a thing with this law, to go to summer scholars and at least have that chance of not worrying about 4th grade retention.
Sure.
If you can get that active growth knocked out.
Yes.
Right then and there.
Yes, that's a great question to follow Mr. Wise's question. Just like the communication before, to know what decision to make, those ongoing conversations of, hey, you really want to look at summer school? Have you thought about summer school? Have you used this QR code? Those conversations happen often for making sure that they're aware of what the options are, and then can make the best decision for their family, and that summer school does provide a level of reassurance or kind of an insurance policy moving to 4th.
Thank you, Mr. Lancaster. Ms. Hayes.
Yes, thank you, Chairman. Remind me, got a couple of questions. How many students were retained in this county?
9.
9. That's magnificent. Do you feel, I'm sorry that those 9 were, but y'all have done a great job with the summer tutoring and then the tutoring in the classroom. Do you feel that the state has listened to you these pathways. How do you feel this is a good? I know the motivation behind this is good. We want our students to read. Have you had an opportunity to communicate, or have you been reached out to by?
Yes.
And you had input.
Yes, ma'am.
In this. How are you feeling about this?
Well, think about it for a second. Let me jump in.
We're having a business conversation.
But-
And it's on this all-core tutoring thing. I hope that they can work this out. That this gives the county, the local school boards, more flexibility.
What I would like to see, right? Like, I mean, I'll be completely transparent.
That's what I want.
I was part of the process of developing Reading 360. Like, I was on a think tank where we put a lot of this together. And the state of Tennessee has made a lot of great moves to invest tremendously in early childhood literacy. You know, before, because of the way No Child Left Behind created this testing culture that we now have, it shifted where, you know, schools had to focus their resources where they could, which was on tested subjects in grades 3 through 5. And they, you know, when we added curriculum in kindergarten, first and second grade, the teachers were overjoyed because they had support. Now we've added foundational literacy with foundations and geodes. If you walk in any of our classrooms, K2, you know, we were, Ms. Skinner and I were at a building today, and there was a kindergartner who likes to teach her younger brothers her geodes lessons at home. And so she's teaching her 3 and 4 year olds, 2 or 3 year old brothers, foundational literacy. All that is great. I think the tutoring is the right move. I think it's, I mean, the data shows you that it's very effective. I think that the retention laws are heavy-handed, and I think they're very well intentioned, but I think we've got, and I think we're finally starting to get to the point where I'm hopeful that by next year we can start to look and say, like, I mean, you know, Ms. Skinner has said that third grade's too, you know, it should be, I don't want to put words in her mouth, you can jump in, Frankie, for sure, but third grade is too late if you want an intervention that works on addressing reading needs. It needs to be much earlier, kindergarten, first grade. Probably not kindergarten, but probably first grade. And that's where it should be, because the earlier we intervene for kids that are struggling readers, the faster they're going to be able to recover. And the good news for Sumner County is we have every tool available. You know, this year we used, one of the things we did with ESSER money is add support for our reading interventionists. And, you know, she was our reading interventionist at Nanny Berry, and I mean, the work that she's done has been tremendous. So we've learned a lot, we've grown a lot. They have done a tremendous job supporting our team and people. It's a topic of conversation at every school. You know, does the state listen to us a lot right now? No. But that doesn't mean, you know, really where we are now is, I will say that our legislative team listens to us quite a bit. And honestly, the things that I think need to be tweaked to fix, the Department of Education's hands are tied in certain ways about what they can and can't do. So I think that there's some things that we can work on for next legislative session to try to tweak and address some of these laws. I mean, here's my, I'll just be honest, here's my two big problems. How do we explain this to a parent? And then, you know, taking a measure to calculate adequate growth, taking a measure as complicated as growth on TVOS, which, I mean, actually is a good measure. I'm glad that Tennessee has that, because we're able to capture not just that kids are on track or mastery, but they're growing. I'm a firm believer in growth. But to take that number and to use a probability assessment of whether or not a child is going to reach proficiency and divide that by 8, I don't know how we explain to parents, hey, we're not talking about the number of questions your child gets right or wrong on the test. We're talking about, do they increase or decrease their likelihood of reaching, their probability of reaching. Like, you can't explain that. Now, the reality is, if they get more questions right, they increase their probability. That's the only way that we can explain it. But I think that's an odd system to create. Basically, like they did away with AMOs that we've used for decades and replaced it with this adequate growth, and it's calculated the same way, but it uses the probability number instead of the proficiency number. And it's just it's an odd measure. That should have given Gene and Frankie enough time to think. And
well, another challenge is the timeline. Like you can see the timeline; it's pretty tight for notification for parents. That's out of our control, and so it adds another layer of stress for students and families.
Yeah, logistically for us, having a final deadline that's about 3 or 4 weeks before we start school is going to be tough, because if we did have substantial retentions, you're talking about adding teachers, moving teachers, so there are some absolute logistical issues with it.
Resources as well.
What's that?
Resources as well.
Right.
I've listened to all the state board meetings, and I've been excited to see teachers on those panels, and I've been excited to see that leaders, school leaders are on the panels. I've also been excited to see the shift in the conversation from what about these now 4th graders, about these now 5th graders, to what's happening in our K-2 classrooms. So I do feel like our voices are heard. I do think that research speaks to shifting the focus from 3rd to 4th to 5th to down to kindergarten, 1st and 2nd, and the state's work has reflected that in Sounds First and Reading 360, like Dr. Langford stated. I taught 3rd grade for 15 years. I know that 8-year-olds on May 22nd, when you spend 180 days with them and you're about to retest them, they're in flip-flops and smell like sunscreen. The last thing they want to do is retake a test. So there are real concerns with the timeline, but I do feel like in some ways our voices are heard, and I'm proud of the work of our school leaders in looking at following the letter of the law while doing what's best for our kids. So it's a roundabout answer there for you, Ms. Hayes.
Mr. Daniels.
Yeah, I was just going to comment. I think Dr. Langford said, you know, that one of the biggest challenges with this is that it's 3rd and 4th graders. And I understand what the state's trying to do, but it really is hard on these kids that have been with students their age for now 4 years, kinder, 1st, 2nd, 4 years, and now they're running the risk of having to not be with that group anymore. They've developed relationships. I know, when my youngest son, Wrigley, when he was in kindergarten, he was socially ready to go to kindergarten. He did well on a lot of subjects. Man, he had trouble reading. And we had to fight tooth and nail to hold him back in kindergarten because he wasn't ready. And what we were told by the principal at the time was he can catch up. He can catch up. And our fear was that now he's going through 1st grade, possibly 2nd grade, 3rd grade, constantly trying to catch up while falling behind. And fortunately, we were able to hold him back. But to Mr. Wise's point, there's a lot of parents that don't understand that. They aren't watching closely enough. Yes, they get their report cards from their kindergarten teachers, but they're not engaged. And so these kids fall through the cracks, and now they get to 3rd grade, and now they're struggling. They've been having to fight the whole time. And even with the tutoring, even with the interventions, they're still so far behind. It's hard for them to get to that level that they need to get to. And that's where, again, I agree. If you were looking at 1st and 2nd grade and you were trying to catch them there, maybe that would solve some of these problems. They'd see a bigger jump. I know kids, it takes longer for some of them to learn those skills and read, but it seems like at this point, 3rd and 4th grade, you've missed almost 2 years of opportunity to connect and catch that. I know our teachers are trying to. They're looking at the scores in those grades, but it seems like they're almost being punished at that point.
I think we're looking at 2 things, because I think that even from the time Wrigley was in kindergarten, the materials and the intervention resources that we have now are so much different. Like, if you talk to 3rd graders now, they spell better than 7th graders or 9th graders because they've had the foundational literacy, and they're not texting yet. But the foundational literacy piece is going to be massive for our district. You know, I said it before. It's planting acorns. It's going to take 5 or 6 years before we see the benefits of it completely. That's going to be a game changer. But yeah, I think that what I would like about it being 1st grade, 2nd grade is I don't want to push standardized testing down into 1st or 2nd grade, but we have enough data. Like Ms. Skinner, Ms. Hudson can speak to this, but we have GEODS data from their decodable readers. We have foundations from their foundational literacy lists. We have their Ames Web. we could sit down. What I think would be appealing to me, if you just ask me what I think would be good about it, is we could have those kind of conversations like that you had, where a parent comes in, we sit down with teachers, we look at, and the principal, we look at all the data, and then we make a data-informed decision that's best for the child. Like, is this something where they need another year repeating first grade standards, or is this something where we can put together a remediation plan for second grade so they move with their peers? But we know the advantage that we have now that we used to not have is we know exactly where their deficiencies are and how we can address them through intervention. The flip side that third and fourth does catch is when we have kids that move in from other districts or other places, a lot of times we get kids that are moving in that have significant attendance issues or different things like that, where it takes us a little while, but we've got to go back and test them and figure out exactly where their holes in learning are. And that goes all the way up. The beauty of our intervention system, and Ms. Skinner can speak to this because she's been very passionate about this, is it goes K-12, and it's a great intervention resource.
We were trying to figure out the timeline. We believe these current third graders are the first third graders who have been through foundations as the current third graders. We've only had GEODs for 2 years. Those are the decodable readers that pair with that program. And so it's usually, to his point, our Sumner County kids, they do really well. It's the influx when we get lots of new students that we have a few. It's not all of our Sumner County kids are up here, but the transiency is a challenge when they don't come from a district who has the same things.
Yeah, one thing I did want to add to that is I'm glad we held back. I mean, it made a big difference. And he still struggled a little bit in school, and he, he's a sixth grader this year at Schaefer, and he made honors classes, and we were a little bit concerned about that. We're like, man, just watch him at Union. How's he gonna do? He's been a straight A student this year, all three quarters. So he's exceeded our expectations, and I really think if we hadn't made that decision and hadn't been that invested in his education, that he's a kid that probably would have been in this group right here. And he might be struggling a lot more than he is. So, like I said, I think our administration works with our kids, and they try to identify that. They don't need this testing to tell them if a kid's struggling or not. I know they're looking at it. They're trying to help these kids to the best of their ability before they get to third grade. It just seems like, in my mind, the state probably take a step back and say maybe we're catching it too late when we could make a difference if we did it a little bit earlier.
I think our teachers and our leaders do a fabulous job at looking at kids beyond numbers to make those decisions. So straight numbers sometimes don't tell the entire story, and so they do a really good job of doing that as well.
Thank you all very much.
All right, I have two little things to wrap up my report, Mr. Brewer, and then we'll be done. First thing, I wanted to make you aware, we voted last time to approve the rental bleachers and to move the money. Remember that money has to go to move from capital to operations. It has to go before the county commission for approval. So I just wanted to update you on the dates, because I do think it passed the school board unanimously, but we need to make sure the commission understands the importance. We don't have 2 runs. If we're going to have the bleachers there in May, we don't have 2 runs to defer anything. It has to go through in April, because it's going to be, we got to be able to sign the bid, get the contract executed, and pay the vendor. So April 1st is education meeting at 6 o'clock. April 8th is budget at 7 p.m. and April 15th is the full commission at 7. It'll have to pass each of those 3 committees to get approved. And then I just wanted Ms. Skinner into something I want to reiterate. We had the opportunity to sit in on a data meeting today at one of our elementary schools in Portland, and I tell you, it was really exciting because this was 4th grade, and so they're looking at their data from the benchmark that they just got back, and the teachers had already broken down, and what I liked about it is I remember when we first started, we had a discussion in here when we first started having benchmarks about, is this too much testing? And the reality is, like what I saw today is our lead educator, principal, and 4th grade teachers are sitting there and they're looking at these kids and identifying, this child has come so far. In 3rd grade they were here and now they're here. And it was interesting because one of the teachers in there has been teaching for quite a while. The other two are relatively new teachers, and seeing them realize like, whoa, like I didn't know until I saw this how much this child's grown in the last year. And then, you know, Frankie's talked a lot about focus on 5, and seeing them pick 5 kids and really drill down and take the data and connect it to where they are and see how they can improve. Because when you focus on those 5, you identify the things that the rest of the kids in the classroom need, because kids typically move in the same way. So that was really exciting. And then one of the measures, you know, we've been a little hard on the state tonight, and rightfully so, but one of the things that I think they put on the report card that I agree wholeheartedly with is the bottom 25%. And we were watching them work through, every school has a bottom 25%. Merrill Hyde has a bottom 25%. Gallatin High School has a bottom 25%. Oakmont has a bottom 25%. And what I like about that is it goes back, I think, Mr. Weiss, what you and Mr. Daniels were hitting on, is that ensures that we stay focused on kids that are struggling. And I loved seeing them say, like one of the teachers was saying, here are my 5, and I actually pulled a couple more because I wanted to see how well they could do. And, you know, one of the kids was being tested to see if they had a learning disability at the start of the year, and then they were on track. So those are just huge celebrations. So I just want to let you know it's exciting. You know, we get sometimes caught up because here we deal with policy and we deal with things like 3rd grade retention and complicated flow charts and stuff like that. But
they didn't know we were coming either. They were just doing that work, so we walked into that.
I don't know how thrilled they were to have the 2 of us join them for their data meeting, but it was fun for me. But you know, I think to see our teachers, our principals, our lead educators work with students, and the way that they can take the data and use it to identify where kids need help is really, really pretty powerful and amazing to watch. And it's good for y'all to hear that too.
All right. Thank you.
I'm done, Mr. Burke.
Okay, thank you, Dr. Nanger. All right, next item on the agenda is new business discussion interaction regarding proposal for engineering and surveying services for BHS, HHS, and PHS football stadium bleachers. Motion approved by Mr. Wise, second by Ms. Andrews. Any discussion? Seeing none, all in favor say aye. Aye. All opposed? Seeing none, motion carries. Next item, discussion interaction regarding proposal for engineering services for GHS track, SCHS track, and MHMS tennis.
Motion to approve.
Motion approved by Mr. Daniels, second by Mr. Gregory. Any discussion? Seeing none, all in favor say aye. Aye. All opposed? Seeing none, motion carries. Next item, discussion interaction regarding a proposal for geotechnical services for BHS and HHS. Is there a motion by Ms. Hayes to approve? Second by Ms. Andrews. Any discussion? Seeing none, all in favor say aye. Aye. All opposed? Seeing none, motion carries. Next item, discussion interaction regarding the release of retainage for systems integration.
Motion to approve.
Motion approved by Mr. Daniels, second by Mr. Gregory. Any discussion? Seeing none, all in favor say aye. Aye. All opposed? Seeing none, motion carries. Next item on the agenda, discussion and interaction regarding a request for staff to prepare a resolution expressing the board's opposition to school vouchers. Is there a motion?
Motion to approve.
Motion approved by Ms. Andrews, second by Mr. Wise. Discussion? Seeing none, all in favor say aye. Aye. All opposed?
No.
No.
2 noes. Motion carries. Next item, unfinished business, discussion and interaction regarding amendments to the general purpose budget. Motion approved by Mr. Lancaster, second by Mr. Wise. Any discussion? Seeing none, all in favor say aye. Aye. All opposed? Seeing none, motion carries. Next item, discussion and interaction regarding amendments to the federal budget. Motion approved by Mr. Lancaster, second by Mr. Gregory. Any discussion? Seeing none, all in favor say aye. Aye. All opposed? Seeing none, motion carries. Next item is discussion of study session items. Mr. Johnson.
Well, as Dr. Langford talked about previously in the meeting, our study session this month will be a capital projects workshop, and then, you know, we'll talk about a budget workshop for May, or, you know, somewhere in between April and May as we see how we're going. So, but yeah, our next one will be a capital projects workshop.
What about that resolution? Well, that-
And as you recall, the motion was for a special call for the board
So
to
we're gonna do a
consider that
special call
resolution
meeting, yeah, we're gonna do a special call meeting
on
before.
April 9th, yes.
Before that, so,
Mhm.
and we'll have the resolution in our.
Yeah, we'll get with Mr. Wise and we'll come up with something.
We'll have it before we vote on it. Okay.
Yes, sir.
Good deal, thank you. Next item on the agenda is comments from board members. Mr. Lacy, you want to start us off?
Yeah, like I said, I'm just thankful to be here tonight. I'm on the voucher thing. I voted no. I guess what the Senate is doing, I'm probably not too happy with. Now, if they go with something the House uses, that may be something that I would agree with, but it's kind of hard to say I'm against something when we really don't know what's going to come down. So, thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Lacy. Mr. Gregory? Thank you, Mr. Gregory. Mr. Graham?
I just hope everyone has a wonderful and safe Easter weekend.
Thank you, Mr. Graham. Mr. Wise?
No comment.
Thank you, Mr. Wise. Mr. Daniels?
Yeah, I just want to say we've got a lot of students right now, and obviously sports are going on, but we've got a lot of fine arts programs coming up too. I think every school in the county, high school and a number of middle schools have different programs going on, different theater productions, art shows, musical programs. So if you're a fan of the fine arts, man, there's a ton of opportunities to go and spend time in seeing how incredible our students are. So just I encourage you to find out what's going on, pay attention, and go celebrate these students' accomplishments and their skills.
Thank you, Mr. Daniels. Ms. Hawkins? Thank you, Ms. Hawkins. Mr. King? Thank you, Mr. King. Ms. Andrews?
Happy Easter.
Thank you, Ms. Andrews. Mr. Lancaster?
One, the weather's getting nice. If you like me, been working in yard, FFA's greenhouse sales are about to happen. I'm going to try to get up there. If you've ever been and priced them, it's better than anywhere else. And two, going to Mr. Daniels' comment on spring musicals and theatrical performances, we had a parent take it upon themselves to create a schedule or calendar of all the theatrical performances and post it, and I'm very thankful that we have that much interest in Sumner County, that somebody does that, and that Dr. Langford shared it on the social media for this, or whoever did, for the whole school. So, happy Easter.
Thank you, Dr. Mr. Langford. Ms. Hayes?
Yes, thank you, Chair. Well, Dr. Langford has already shared about HHS, but that was so fun. The pep rally. You guys are great sports. Those that agreed to be slimed, the kids were, boy, they were into it. Dr. Langford, Ms. Skinner, Deputy John, who is our SRO of HHS, the HHS Assistant Principal, Mary Beth Allen, and HHS's engineer teacher, the robotics, Jeff Wilkins. They allowed themselves to be slimed for a great cause. It was so much fun. And the slime was made by the STEAM students at Indian Lake Elementary School.
And they did a great job.
And they did a great job. I don't know about extra glue in Dr. Langford's, but
Your decision. I had nothing to do with it.
I know that Dr. Sawyer's was running. He was up on the balcony area of the gym.
Almost got him after, but he had his head on a swivel.
And then Dr. Langford didn't bring any change of clothes. So Renee was fixing up trash bags for him to cover himself so he could get in the car to go home. So it really was amazing.
I had on clothes. I just put trash bags over them. Let's clarify that.
You did not bring a change of clothes. Oh gosh, that was great. It was a great day, and we've got to just somehow recognize Kelly Flood. Jeremy Johnson, you did a great job when you interviewed, and you got that young lady. She does such a wonderful job of highlighting all the great things that are going on in our schools across this county, to where national recognition is and national attention by different media outlets have come into this county to highlight the successes of our students and the achievements. It's phenomenal. So shout out to Kelly Flood. I've got the honor of being asked to serve on the Family Resources Advisory Council, and Ted Wise is going to be on that as well. the work that the Family Resource Center does is phenomenal. So we'll report back, and it would be also great if Kathy Graff comes and just shares of just even the needs that we have in this county, in our student population and our families. But at Rotary the other day, Jonathan, my husband, Morning Rotary in Hendersonville, came home with this, the care cabinet. So I reached out to Kathy to ask her about this. Carrie Chambers has taken the initiative to start this and is working with the Family Resource Center. And the care cabinet offers a discreet, confidential, and fully stocked area right in the school. This provides basic care items to children with immediate needs. It lists the things that they would need, and then also a contact information for Carrie. But you could also find that through the Family Resource Center. But that is wonderful that this is in each of our schools, and in a discreet way and confidentially, that needs can be met. So it takes a team, and the Family Resource Center they just do a phenomenal job. So I'm just so proud of their work. I pray you all have a blessed Easter.
Thank you, Ms. Hayes. A blessed Easter from me as well. We are adjourned.